Welcome, everybody. This is episode 12. I can't believe it's the 12th episode,
It's going
Steven.
by really fast.
Real fast. And it's like, I was thinking about it the other day about how, I don't know, just the hit and the miss, trying to get into a rhythm and trying to make sure that we're kind of uh, focused on something, right? When we do these things. And then we tried out the cultural web model, kind of doing a series and really dug into culture and how you can measure it, measuring the immeasurable. And now we're kind of kicking off just I think a series of topics that are true to our hearts, true to us in terms of our leadership style and what we think is important, that we hope will resonate with people who will be watching during the call or after the call. And reach out to us if there's anything we share that you want to dig into more, or you want us to dig into more. But this is third place leadership. We want to build lasting leadership communities. We want to do the hard stuff together. We want to make sure that people are connecting and have community. And we want to dig into things that aren't super simple. And tonight we're going to be talking about building connection. And I was, as I was preparing for this live, Stephen, and I thought about connection, the first thing that came to mind is it's really complicated today, especially in the workplace. Tammy Leclerc put a post out there about change in AI, and
Yeah, I read that.
yeah, you read that. Yeah,
Yeah.
she talked about how change is constant, but I think the one thing that resonated with me that well, the whole thing resonated, but the one thing that resonated with me in relation to tonight's live was that it's unpredictable, right? And um, so if you have constant change and the change is unpredictable, like think about what that means for connection. Think about that what that means for like team development. So you're forming a team, or a new person comes in, you're forming, you're storming, you're norming, and then something shifts. But when it shifts, you don't know how it's going to shift. So trying to reconcile clarity around roles and responsibilities or goals, like that can be really challenging, and just complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're changing the very foundation of what it means to be in a work environment and what it means to have working relationships, right? Because for me, I find change to be incredibly predictable because it's a constant, right? Like it's
Yeah.
guaranteed that that change is going to be happening. And so how do you build around that variable? Which is like how do you create um, the ability to be change ready? How do you become adaptable? Right? What does it mean to break out of some of the old norms of even, you know, what is written in my job description, right? Because my job might be changing over month, week over week, whatever is meant to meet the business need, right? It's just different.
Sure. I mean, if you look at almost every change model out there, right, there's a period, and we're not talking, I mean, we're talking about change as it relates to connection, but I think change management probably will come up often during this call, and just managing change. But if you look at most change models, right, they have this valley of despair where people really kind of just get stuck and mired in like what's going to happen to me.
Yeah.
How is this going to impact me? How's it going to impact my work? How's it going to impact how I engage with other people? And it almost seems like in today's environment, you might, you, if change is unpredictable and it's constant, are you constantly in this valley? And what does that mean for connecting with others? Because at some point with change, you want to become introspective and figure out, like, can I make it through to the other side? And do I even have time to connect with people? And what does that even mean for a leader, right? Trying to build connection in constant change and unpredictability. You can kind of make your head spin a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, I don't know what your personal feelings are about it. I think mine's a little blunt, and it's like you've just got to learn to adapt if you want to survive, right? Like, but just
So
the
that's what
nature.
I mean. I think from a leader to their people, how
Yeah.
would you foster adaptability? Right. So you're moving quick. You're trying to build relationships. How do you build relationships quick? Build connection quick in that space.
Yeah. I mean, I think you start looking at the values and the working principles of your organization.
Okay.
And
All
a
right.
lot of, I would say a lot of the stuff that has been traditionally said, but not necessarily practiced, is going to have to be practiced if you want to be successful. For example, a lot of companies like to say, you know, fail fast and it's okay to fail,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
This concept of now you're creating experiments, right? You're making decisions based off of a hypothesis. You want to figure out, is this going to work, is this not going to work? You need to have the ability to make executive decisions with your own level of autonomy and see if it works for, you know, something that hasn't necessarily been done before. And if you fail, if you're penalized for that, right, you're discouraged to continue to experiment. The only way that you're going to be able to adapt is to experiment. And so I
What
think, oh, go ahead.
what if your people don't have a tolerance for that, right? Or maybe just don't know how.
Tolerance in what way? Like,
Maybe they've never experienced experimentation, right?
yeah,
Or even have a level of comfort in that.
absolutely. I mean, I think it's similar to a lot of behavioral models that are out there, right? Like if you as a leader, and we talked about this through the cultural web model, if you're
Yeah.
celebrating experimentation, if you're celebrating failures, and you're using those experiences to educate the rest of your team, and then starting to set those types of expectations across your org chart, right? You can start creating that awareness and that desire in which you're expecting people to work. Um, I've worked for a team where, as as part of our like weekly huddle, we share our failures as something to be proud of, and
Yeah.
that's an opportunity for us to say, you know what, we tried, we learned, and now we're better. And
And it
frankly, everybody else is better because they're not going to make the same mistake that we made. Right?
Well, and it touches on something as it relates to what we're talking about tonight, and that's building connection and fostering
Yeah,
connection as a leader, fostering engagement as a leader. And when you create that space where you can talk about how you failed and you celebrate that, um, like that's huge. I mean, I bet that actually builds trust and builds a stronger connection within your team.
that's exactly what it boils down to, right? And I think even if you think about traditional organizations before this, giant technology shift, right? You could say you've got an open door policy, but if your door is always closed, you're sending a message. Or if people
Sure.
interrupt and then they're sort of reprimanded, or they get this feeling that they're a burden, right? You're not developing trust. You're not practicing what you're preaching. And I think the same goes for these opportunities for adaptability and experimentation and failure and these new working norms, right? You can preach it, but you got to follow through in action, and you have to learn to not be reactive, to not react negatively to when things are shifting from what you would traditionally expect to see. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think about just today's workforce and what's being asked of them, especially when I referenced Tammy's post earlier and constant change, unpredictable change, and I just can't help but wonder if this fast pace is working against what you're describing, right? So, like, if you're expected to move fast, if you're expected to pivot fast, if you're expected to be adaptable fast, um, and you're also trying to connect at the same time, like in my mind as a leader, if I'm leading teams, I'm like, how do I get that done, both of those things done at the same time,
that's a
right?
fair.
And I hear what you're talking about, like regularly connect as a team, have a dedicated time and talk about
Yep.
failure, talk about things that work, talk about things that don't work. And as I was researching tonight, one of the things that's tried and true, and I did this we back when I started in one of my first jobs at the state. um, I was participating in employee engagement work,
Mhm.
And one of the things we implemented was regular one-to-ones, right? And all of a sudden, employee engagement scores shot up, right?
Yeah.
And I bring this up because one-to-ones are a point of connection, right? They're a point of connection between a supervisor or manager and their person. Sometimes they're one-to-ones within people, but I think one-to-ones can't be underestimated. Even if it's 15 minutes once a week,
Yeah.
make a huge impact, you know.
I'm curious on your thoughts, Brian, as to like where connection is headed into the workplace, right? Because we're talking about somewhat hypothetical situations, but the reality is, right, we have been, I would say, over decades now. Um, as technology has empowered the human being, right, the expectations of productivity have gone up, and
Yep.
the time spent with your technological tools to create that efficiency goes up. And now we have this world of technology where um, it can essentially partner with you in your work. So what happens with connection?
I This last week I lost count of how many times I heard somebody say I went to my AI and treated them as a therapist. So, I think people are asking for advice, from technology. I think there's connection there, but I think you can enable it, right, to foster greater connection. I've also, right, I've heard people say, like, how do I approach this interpersonally when they may not necessarily have that innate skill set? Or how can I approach this from an empathetic way when I don't have that innate skill set? I think there's a lot of power and benefit in leveraging technology to create greater connection. I was, I was looking up some stats for tonight just to kind of
Yeah.
inform, like, what is the state of connection in the workplace today. And Gallup's a great source for this. You can go online and do just a quick search, and you can get some great information around Gallup, in terms of the workplace and social connection in the workplace. And one of the things that stood out to me was 32% of workers who took the survey, right, describe their workplace as isolated and impersonal. And here's my thought, right? Here's what my heart is telling me. My heart is telling me is, um, that's not what leaders want. And I think one of the challenging things is, if you're managing people or leading people, is how do I build connection, create greater connection with my people, and move fast, right, at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think we're in a period. I think we're in a period of, like, trying to figure out what that balance is, and trying to figure out how to balance moving quick and being agile and adaptable and learning and experimenting, and connection. And it's almost like we could all benefit from, like, getting some design theory training and, like, almost like some product manager training. I
Yeah,
know that
for sure.
probably sounds a little bit too, like, narrow and linear, but um, product managers, right, have to be really comfortable with the idea of experimentation, right, and
Yeah.
prototyping, and moving forward. And I know organizations have tried to implement an agile, right, type workplace, but it's one of the hardest things
Yeah.
to do, which connects to our last conversation, right, that we had around power. Those types of environments require relinquishing of hierarchy and power,
Yeah.
um, which can be really challenging. So it's crazy, though. 32% described their workplace as isolated and impersonal.
Yeah. And
Really,
I mean, previous statistician here, right? So I definitely have questions about the stats in the
you're
sense
still
of,
certified as a statistician, right?
I mean, yeah, I guess
Okay.
that's, but like I wonder how they sampled that, because what immediately I would say, like, my visceral reaction to that is somebody who was in a very senior leadership position pre-COVID and held that position through COVID, and then what I would consider to be like early post-COVID.
Mm.
Like,
It's 2025 stats.
yeah,
2025.
Yeah, well, and this is why I'm saying this is because as a leader who cared a lot about culture, interpersonal connection, and sort of that workplace environment, I remember throwing all sorts of ideas at the wall as to how to connect to my team in a virtual environment. And like,
Sure.
despite my best efforts, sometimes like it felt even isolating to me. I mean, we were creating these like voluntary water cooler coffee talks, where
Yeah.
people drop in, but you get the same three people, representing a very small proportion of your overall organization. You would set up more frequent all staffs so you could at least communicate effectively across a wider audience. But the reality is like in a hybrid environment, it's hard to create interpersonal connections, even in a meeting where between two people, if one person has their camera off, you're missing a significant amount of what is communicated through communication, right? Like your body language and things along those lines. It's hybrid to me, virtual to me is very unpersonable. It comes with a lot of benefits. Like I got to be home while my kids were born and I got to watch them grow and spend a ton of time with them, right? I
Yep.
wouldn't trade that for the world. But
Sure.
I definitely had better connection when I was in the office.
Yeah. I I hear that, man. I was thinking about the challenge right within the virtual environment. I remember reading when COVID first hit and we all just like went home.
Yeah.
I remember reading uh, a ton of articles out there around virtual work and what do you need to do? How do you need to lead in these environments? And I remember reading something, and I know you're a statistician, so you don't quote me on this, and don't ask me to validate
Where's the footnotes,
validate my
Brian?
source and reference the size of the population. But I remember reading that it was something like you need to double the amount of your engagements in a virtual environment to simulate connection, the same type of connection in a work environment. Now, things have come a long way. The tools have become way more advanced since then. So, this is a long time ago. You have some pretty cool interactive tools now out there with like Mural and Miro and some just really fun ways to engage virtually. Um, but I wonder if that's still the case. So um, if you're going through change, right, rapid change, unpredictable change, does that mean that you need to meet more if you're virtual? Does that mean you need to connect more and have more touch points? Like, is that still relevant? Right.
What I can't help but think is I think organizations are going to have sort of two choices, right? Are they going to be a full efficiency, well-oiled machine, get the results, get the beat out the competition, right? Because frankly, there's a giant technology rat race going on right now. And the second piece of that is like, are organizations going to double down on culture? And what does that mean for the workers and the talent that they can retain and the talent that they can bring based off of their working reputation? Is it even going to matter? I mean, I personally, one of the first things I look at when I'm applying for a job is how are they ranked in their workplace environment?
Yeah.
It
Sure.
says a lot.
No,
And
I mean everything I read today referenced if you want to increase retention, increase connection.
yeah,
If you want to increase productivity, increase connection. If you want to increase trust, increase connection. Right? So I didn't see one thing out there that said connecting with each other is bad and building connection is bad. But I do think there's a tension. I do think there's a tension between how fast things are moving and how unpredictable things are and building connection. I think it's an area they need to sit in. I think it's a crossroads between what you describe, right? Technology, rat race, and culture is how do you build connection through that?
yeah,
I I I I think that's the sweet spot right now. I think that's what people should be leaning into and trying to figure out is you can marry either side. You can marry this idea of technology, and you can marry this idea of culture, and find the Venn diagram, right? The middle spot is, you know,
Equilibrium point.
the equilibrium point, right, for solving that, is this idea of connection. And Joe, we can't respond back in chat to LinkedIn comments, so
But we see it.
we will verbally acknowledge your comment, and that's you have extreme dislike for work from home personally and for workplace culture. Would love to hear more. You can go ahead and, if you want us to interact with you via chat, you can go to YouTube or Facebook. We're live on there as well, but would love your thoughts on why that is, so we can dig into it. But while we're waiting for you, because I think there's a little bit of a delay between us
Yeah, I
talking and
guess.
people hearing things. So Stephen, you're a um, self-proclaimed introvert, right? I'm a I'm a I'm a self-proclaimed extrovert, and I know there's just because you're an introvert doesn't mean you don't like talking to people or hanging out with people and stuff like that, right? But with this idea of connection as an introvert, like what is ideal for you, right, in the workplace?
I mean, I'm going to answer that question in a broader sense because I feel
Okay.
like ever since I've been in a leadership position, right, like I have had to force myself to be more personable and more extroverted while I'm in a workplace because as we talked about in our previous 11 episodes, right, if you see people and you help people feel like they matter,
Oh
right,
yeah.
and you acknowledge people for their work and you get to know people from a human to human, heart to heart connection, like you
Yeah.
get so much more out of your people, right?
100%.
And frankly, like I enjoy that. I do. I
Hmm.
just afterwards I need to retire to a dark
Absolutely.
room without
Yeah.
any noise. And
I there's definitely connotations associated with the word that
right.
aren't accurate, right? Just because you're introvert doesn't mean you don't like connection or people. Um, and you just need to recharge differently.
Yeah.
Totally get that.
But
I just
I didn't mean to cut you off, buddy. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, good. You're good, man.
I would say like
We're just having a good chin wag.
yeah. I would say though, like something I am feeling more
Hmm.
now is expectations of results, right? Beyond what's expected of me and just my role, right? Like we're supposed to be changing the way we do work every day, and because there is such a rat race out there right now, like it's very competitive. Every minute matters,
Yeah.
and so trying to find that sweet spot of connection, investing in connection versus how soon can you get a return on investment for that connection, right? The results that get
Good point.
driven from just leveraging technology, right? Like I feel that pressure. And when are you kind of like overdoing it on maybe the connection side to meet the expectations of the organization, right? And that's tough. That's tough. It's a very different type of environment now.
Well,
It's,
so here's another stat for you to chew
yeah,
on.
lay it on me.
I don't have population. I don't know if it's statistically valid or reliable, but I'm going to lay it on you.
Yeah, lay it
So
on me.
70% of the folks who took that Gallup survey, right, they attribute managers to being the person who has the biggest impact on employee engagement.
Yeah,
So if you're jamming and you're trying to build culture and you're the one responsible for filling that void, right? What, from your perspective, what is the fastest, simplest, and most impactful way to do that? To fill that void? You mean you have decades of leadership experience. You have leadership experience in the nonprofit sector. You have leadership experience in state and private. Um, you like to boss me around. So you have leadership experience in this relationship.
yeah.
Wait,
But what's
you acknowledge that way too quickly.
yeah, yeah. No, facts. Very true there, Brian. Honestly, I'm trying to think about that because there's a lot you can get out of your people through quote unquote employee engagement, right? There was this meme that went around during COVID that says, "Oh, we miss our employee engagement," and it says employee engagement, and it's like
The pizza
three
party.
pizzas, right? Yeah, the
Yeah,
pizza party, right?
the pizza
Uh,
party.
so you really have to think about how you
The-
define employee engagement. When I think of employee engagement and what it means for a manager to influence that individual, one is people want to know that they matter. People want to know that their job is contributing to the strategic vision of where your department is going. They want to know that their work is valuable. People want to be fairly compensated, and
Yeah.
that's a big deal as well. Because frankly, I don't know how many people would go to work every day if they didn't need to, right? So, like, is it worth the opportunity cost of going to work every day? And if you walk into those doors and yes, you're away from your family, but you feel seen, you feel valued, you're making an impact, right? You've got good rapport, you feel like you're around a community that trusts you, and you're rewarded fairly for that work. Like, to me, that's sort of the bare bones, right, of what employee engagement should be. You can take it further than that. You can have the picnics, you can have the pizza parties, you can do the team trainings, you can do the virtual water coolers and all that kind of stuff, right? But people have human needs and they have financial needs.
Yeah. Yeah, my if I were to try to fill that void, just to build off what you shared, right?
Yeah,
Human
please
needs
do.
and financial needs. If I were to fill that void of rapid technology, rapid transformation change, and trying to balance building culture, one word comes to mind super clearly, and that's validation. Right. And that connects to mattering, that connects to
Yep.
what you're paying, that connects to spending time, giving your time to people. But I think at the end of the day, people want to be validated, right? And that connects to your reference to my I can see my work in the strategic goals and objectives of the organization. I can clearly see that.
Yeah.
And it's almost like your strategic goals, like the traditional way of doing strategic goal work and planning, is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Right. If you think of, I mean, not that you shouldn't have strategic goals, but if people are going to align their value and self-worth with the strategic direction and goals of the organization, but those goals are constantly shifting, how do they reconcile, right, whether their work is lined up or important? And I
I think,
think go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I think to your point, it actually it brings me back to your original point, and that's it's almost like we need to pivot away from employee engagement. Not that employee engagement is not important, but investing in equipping people with the ability to adapt, right?
Yeah.
Developing their skill set in that sense. So it brought me full circle to kind of what you shared earlier. And people will be seen and they'll feel invested in, they'll feel connected through that development process. But that's almost like I think it's this focus on filling the void between transformation technology and culture, which is connection. But then there's like this skill set of adaptability that you called out that I think needs some investment as well in time.
Absolutely. And this is going down like a deep rabbit hole. So I don't want us to spend too much time there. Because I think this could also become a hot topic for some individuals. But I think, this is the first time I think in history where, I mean, there's always been technological advances, but the rapid evolution of technology and how human beings are not evolving nearly as fast to keep up with.
Oh, that's definitely a rabbit trail.
Well, no, I haven't even. I just started, right?
Okay.
So now we have the workplace trying to figure out what skills folks need to operate in this environment, to do the work that needs to get done with the tools that are available. But then like think of our educational system as well. Because frankly, like when I talk to some of my professorial friends and individuals that work in higher education, I like asking the question, does it make sense to work towards a particular hard skill that you're going to get over a 4-year
I've
curriculum?
been thinking about that
Like,
same thing lately. Like
I feel like
the
I'm going to be left
traditional path.
behind. Yeah. So it's like, how do you educate on adaptability? How do you educate on technology, right? And to where at the
Yeah.
time that you now have your foundational education to survive in society in some way, shape, or form, right? That it's relevant. And then I feel like that can help shape the professional environment. But right now, I feel like both areas are adapting at the very same time,
It's
right?
it's almost like the whole organizational the idea of an organization. The idea of an organization, right, is being disrupted. Your rabbit trail made me think of succession planning,
Yeah.
right? Is that even relevant anymore? It made me think of learning pathways. Is that even relevant anymore? It made me think of training and development. Is that even relevant anymore? And yes, right?
Yeah. It
Yes,
is.
they
Yeah.
still need
Yeah.
some of those things. But how much disruption is in play,
Yeah.
right? And I think that that speaks to really kind of strategic planning, training, succession planning, learning. It all connects to like this fabric within an organization in which connection happens through. And yeah, I'm probably gonna chew on that question for a while. How do we reconcile rapid technology transformation?
Because
And
I
yes,
mean,
you're right. It's happened before. And then culture building,
yeah.
that
Yeah.
middle
Because
spot.
we usually start with some like housekeeping items right around like these are our personal opinions.
Did I forget that again?
Yeah, but it's
Give,
I'm just thinking like even in my current role, and this doesn't necessarily apply to my
well,
current role.
let's throw it out there, right? These are our opinions. They don't represent past, current, future employers. This is just Stephen and I having a good chin wag. But yes, thank you for. I forgot that's the second in a row.
It's all
You
right.
need to remind me earlier.
Yeah,
No
that's
worries.
fair. I will remind you next time. But I think
Oh,
about my current role, right? And I say this vaguely because I don't think it would matter where I was working. I would be
sure.
having this thought, and frankly, I have this thought as a father as well for my kids. But I
Mm-hmm.
am very well aware of the fact that the role that I am is going to be different months from now than it is right now. And the companies that I work for, or whatever company I work for, is going to be different months from now than the company that I'm working for right now.
I
And
think I think that's hard to reconcile for some people, man. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
well, when we're talking about change readiness, right? Like I think people have to get to that. But I'll be honest, like when I sit in that, I don't always have the answers to like what does that mean for me? Like, is my role going to be relevant? Right? Like it's easy to get stuck in this fear-based place, but I've already learned like I need to go and identify areas of opportunity and problems, and I have to like then come up with solutions, right? And I've got to partner with the right people to develop solutions to get to these results, and these expected results are changing, right? And it's exciting, but it's different. It's
Yeah,
just
good.
no, that's it. It's just
Just personal challenge. I'm gonna figure out a way to like pop some pictures up while we're going along. I don't know how to do that yet with this application, but I couldn't help but think about like the change model, right? Um, it's actually based off of like the grief cycle, which is
yeah,
pretty interesting.
yeah,
But you find out the change is happening, and at some point you go to this what they call the valley of despair. But I don't
yeah.
think it's like when you were talking, this picture popped in my head. I don't think it's a smooth valley anymore. I think it's rapids, right? in the bottom in the bottom of personal change, like you're riding this rapid ride until you kind of come out, and then you kind of I don't think the step out of the curve is steep anymore. I just think you're just you're just kind of in this kind of rapid of you coming through the change and then you're up to the next change, and it's almost like you need to get some different gear, you know.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder. And again, I think tying this back to this concept of third place leadership and developing a community, right? When it's been proven time and time again that when certain technology gets released, say like social media, and it changes the way that we adapt, compare, and think, right? It
Mm-hmm.
often leads to a lesser psychological state.
Sure.
And the stats are there. I won't get into like how sad and depressing it is, but I worry that if people don't have the time to grieve, right? If they're not able to process trauma as it's happening, you are literally creating PTSD for yourself. And what does that mean for your psychological state outside of the workplace?
I mean,
And how
now
important
we're
is it?
getting now we're
Yeah.
getting deep.
Well, and I think
Now
it's
we're,
just really important that you
now
have
we're
your
getting
community,
really
right?
deep. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like you just need to let go of what you can't control and focus on what you
Yeah.
can, right? I think there's a lot to be said around that old adage. Um, well, gosh, we're getting close to wrapping up, Stephen. If there's one closing word you have for folks that you think, again, if connection were hypothesis, right? If connection were the uh, the ultimate in connecting, creating a space for connection and fostering connection between constant, and intense technological and rapid change, and building a solid, healthy, thriving culture, and that's connection. What would be your guiding words for folks as we wrap up today to fill that void?
I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Brian, because I feel like I'm going to give an answer that's not super traditional, and that's probably not what you're looking for either.
I don't.
Uh,
I'm not looking for anything. For
eh,
for me, it's really just keep it simple. I think start your day with writing down your intention for the day as it relates to connection. Right. So today, here's how I want to foster connection, and you can inventory, right, what's ahead of you for the day, and really, and just design for the day, and design for the people that you're going to be connecting with. Because if you truly want to foster dialogue, right, two-way communication, not one way, you need to create the space for that dialogue, right? It's not so much as simple as like, I'm going to have a one-to-one, I'm going to have a meeting, I'm going to have a lunch. It's, how do I want to design that lunch for the person that I'm connecting with? How do I want to design that one-to-one for the person that I'm connecting with? And doing that just a day at a time.
yeah,
And if it's even simpler for you, maybe it's the first half of the day. Because as leaders, right, you're in the middle, you're managing expectations from above, you're managing expectations from below and from the side, and it can be a lot. So one day at a time, and maybe even 1 hour at a time to get going. But state your intent, state your daily intent as it relates to connection.
I think it's really good advice. Mine actually has less to do with the workplace and more to do with the individual. And that is, I
Yeah,
think, you know, that historically, right, humans have needed a community to survive. And as you look back through anthropology, they talk about this fire, food, water, but also community. And I will say, like now more than ever, when I leave my office door and I go to my family, it's like I'm stepping between two different worlds of
like Star
intensity,
Trek.
kind of, And
Oh,
I
that'd be
think
cool.
it's on us to ensure that we are prioritizing our appropriate level of connection. And I think the reason why I say that is because everybody's going through rapid change right now and trying to figure it out.
Sure.
And I think a lot of leaders are going to go out there and they're going to be really trying to do their best to connect with their teams, but they're also trying to survive as well. And I think everybody's uncertain. So do the uncertainty together, but create certainty for yourself
Mm,
and making sure that you have a community that's safe.
yeah, I like
If you're like
that.
me, right? Like I like to connect with God every day. I like to make sure I'm connecting with my family, right? Like those are really important things foundationally before I even step into my professional work environment.
Yeah, I love that. It's I think it's important, especially to get to a deeper level of connection, just to
Yeah.
state where you're at.
Yeah.
And sometimes people assume that you're not going through anything, right? And if you're impacted by the change, or if you're impacted by what's around you, and just stating where you're at, I think that's super valuable. And I love the making sure you get straight before you start your day as well.
Yeah.
Alyssa Elliott shared ooh, individualization. So something we said about individuals. Um, I think that I think it was in reference to designing for the person that you're connecting with, but could have been something you shared as well, Stephen, around focusing on the individual as well. But uh, love to hear your feedback, Alyssa. Um, you know, and whether it's a DM or in our next live or here. And then Edna, I've got a lot of family on tonight, Stephen. I've had my wife, my brother-in-law Joe Henriksen, and now my aunt Edna Pontohan. She said, "I like your thought of of writing down things you've planned. When I get up, I think about what I want to do for the day, and it does help me stay focused." So she's aligned to what you shared as well, right, Stephen? And
Yeah.
kind of like, what's my day? Am I centered? Have I done the things I need to do to center myself? And really kind of focusing on the individual. So I like that balance, right? I offered focusing outward on the people, and you're like focus inward too. I think those are both good, simple steps to kind of foster, connection throughout the day. We've got about 4 minutes left. Are there any questions or additional thoughts you guys wanted us to chat through before we wrap up today? Stephen and I will vogue while we wait for the questions.
Well, it doesn't help that there's also a delay in the chat.
I
So
know.
we have to sit extra long. I can't respond to the chat. I don't think I have those types of privileges.
I've locked you down. That's an internal control that I've set.
Yeah, that's fair.
So you don't get out. You don't take us down too many rabbit trails. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
I don't know why that is. I'm sure it's a setting I have to change.
I'm totally fine letting you handle the talking to people.
Can you see the chat though?
I can see the chat.
Okay.
I just can't type back.
There's a way to show the chat on the stream. So maybe we'll do that next time. We'll put that out there.
Very cool.
But Johanna said, replying to Edna, not us, Stephen, to Edna. I agree. Lists are very helpful for focus. So awesome. Well, thank you all for joining, the engagement, the chat, your time as you prepare for the week. And we wish you all the very best. Have a great
week,
start.
everyone.
Thank you.